Hello and welcome to another episode of Pull the Chart. Today we are doing the 27 Club, or starting the 27 Club. Just a little warning, if you are sensitive to eating disorders or any kind of addiction issues, this is probably an episode to skip. So today we are going to look at Amy Winehouse and Janis Joplin. We're going to start with Janis. And Janis grew up in Texas with a very conservative family. Her mom was a registrar at a college, and her dad was her dad was an engineer, correct? Yes, he was an engineering. Two siblings. When she hit puberty, she got acne and put on some weight and was bullied. She was described as being rebellious, free-spirited, who was deeply sensitive, insecure, and introspective. She is the first female superstar, like rock and roll superstar. She was also extremely intelligent. So lots to discuss in her chart, but I'm going to pull up her chart and then I'm going to read you the last letter she wrote her family. Here we have her chart. So before we go into the chart, she would write letters to her family. She was super intelligent, and I guess the way she spoke in private was different than how she was in public. But she wrote, "Dear family, I managed to pass my 27th birthday without really feeling it. I've been looking around and I noticed something, how much you really need to be loved. Ambition isn't just a desperate quest for positions or money, it's just love, lots of love." And that was prior to her death. So she was born a Capricorn sun, an Aquarius rising, and a Cancer moon. So here we will dive into the chart. First of all, Capricorn sun, Aquarius rising, extremely intelligent. Her sun is in the 12th. It is what I usually consider like behind the scenes a bit. And I think that plays into her chart, even though she is on stage. So at this 12th house, I looked at her Mercury and her Venus, which is here. And to me, it just was part of her unique style, which is part of how she was bullied a little bit in her youth. She had her own like beatnik kind of style for being in a conservative Texas town. She has a little bit wilder hair, but she really kind of, whenever I think of Venus Aquarius, I think of like Harry Styles on stage. He always has these like crazy costumes. Like they're just a little more eccentric in how they dress. The other thing you'll notice right away with her chart is there are only two, or I'm not going to count the luminaries, the sun and moon, but there's only two planets not in retrograde, her Mars and her Venus. She also has down here an unaspected moon and Jupiter. Moon in Cancer, she also has a hard time showing love to others. Okay. Then you also have Jupiter here, which we've seen Jupiter on its own and in Cancer before. So you form beliefs early on and you have your own like beliefs and mental images, but this can also be excesses and you like to do things your own way. You're a nonconformist, which
Well,
I
and
think
interesting
will,
that it's retrograde, so internalize it more.
right. Down lower, down here, she has this Uranus, Saturn, which to me is always, if you're driving, it's a stop go, like both feet are on the pedals. You're going, you're stopping, you're going, you're stopping. And they're both retrograde. So I think like in her mind, like when I saw this, I immediately thought, did she have any learning disabilities? What was her mental state like, especially since they were both retrograde? She was extremely intelligent. She may have been a manic depression. She may have had ADHD, body dysmorphia. These are all things that could have appeared for her. And I think when you go through her story, right, this really does kind of show up. But then that all trines into her sun in the 12th house, where she kind of like can keep things to herself. I feel like that's like a very closeted space. It's very dark. And then you have it also trining Neptune, and it's in your 7th house, but Neptune tends to blur any boundaries. So I think kind of the idea of like your mind probably is running. You kind of, it stops and goes, but then also like your whole sense of who you are can be very confusing. And then it's tied in here with her seventh house of relationships, which she had a lot of relationships. She was very hedonistic, but I wonder how much of that is because she also has this south node in Aquarius and this north node in Leo of you don't want to be abandoned. You, it's your way to like block yourself from truly feeling love, although you wanted to be accepted in love.
I want to tackle this a little bit. So the sun in Capricorn, you're naturally reserved anyway, you know, and so you tend to have your head down and you do your work, right? Very structured. That Uranus Saturn conjunction in the third house and what you shared with us about being bullied. I mean, for her whole life, she was different. She
Mm-hmm.
had her own look. She had her own everything. So the Saturn I see more like you're not fitting in the structure of our Texas neighborhood here, you
Yeah.
wild child, you know, and then it having going up and trining the sun in Capricorn, you know. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep my thoughts to myself then. And then training over there in Neptune in relationships, you know, I think all this retro retrograde, there's a lot of delusion and looking for that partner, and it never really panned out.
Yeah. I had a hard time with this chart. I just, as soon as I saw it, it just made me really sad
Mhm,
because it's
mhm,
really hard placements. And she was also
mhm,
coming in with this South Node in Aquarius of like, she was also already coming in with this like originality.
mhm.
And then I looked at like her North Node there, and it was like, she's got to learn how to kind of leave behind these ideas of being detached from her emotions. And then, but then at the same time, relationships are really important and meaningful. And when you really read about the people that she was in relationships with, like they then make comments like, well, we weren't really in a relationship. And I just felt like they dismissed their actual relationships with her. And I felt like that was just this like wound of this Chiron there next to her North Node. And it just like, oh, it just kind of like hurts your heart to hear like she
Yeah,
wanted to be loved, is trying to have relationships with people, and then at the same time was like, well, I don't know if they're going to love me. I'm just going to take this hedonistic route and kind of just love everyone.
the South Node in Aquarius in the first house, she was the expat. She never belonged. She
Mm-mm.
came into this world already knowing that she didn't belong. She came from a place where she didn't belong. And with that North Node, strangely, in Leo, in the house of relationships, what I feel that she was learning is getting over that pain of being isolated, of not belonging to a clan anywhere, and finding your place and your individuality and your strength from relationships. So she
Yeah.
was had to learn how to do that this
Mhm.
time.
I mean, that Leo Chiron is just this fear of like not being enough. And it just felt like your light being dimmed. And then this like associated with like you're looking for external validation of love. And then I'm like, oh, here it is. So here's that. Then it trines up to where she's on stage. And that's where she felt the most love. And she even said, on stage, I make love to 25,000 people, and then I go home alone. And I was just like, okay, tears. Like,
Yeah.
just, I don't know. This was a really hard, I think this would have been a really hard chart to have sat down and said, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take on this life.
Mhm.
This was really tough. I thought a lot about the South Node and the ascendant here. She had a fatalistic outlook on life. She called it her cosmic blues, which was Kozmic, which I believe she had a song or album, right? That kind
Mhm.
of used those words as well. And I just thought about with Aquarius, your ruler being Uranus here in your third, and it's retrograde, and it's in Gemini. It's like just these ruminating kind of thoughts.
Yeah.
kind of almost against yourself.
Yeah. Placements in the third house are hard.
The house of Gemini here, the third. Well, it's your learning and development, your early childhood, your siblings, your neighborhood. I mean, it's your community. It's like layers of beliefs right there.
Mhm.
It's just, and then hers is the house is ruled with, you know, Venus. It's ruled by Venus because of Taurus. That's in the 12th house. It just seemed really, really hard. She had a lot of genius to her when you have the connection between Uranus and Mercury, in which it comes out through like her writings. She was very, very, very gifted. But it's also can be very erratic, which I think her on stage, right, depending on her level of what she was on at the time, what she was masking with, right, it kind of came out in this erratic way as well. I thought was interesting too. Her persona, right? So here she has this. I thought about the moon in Cancer here. With the moon in Cancer, Cancer has like that crab shell, right? And then you have this Aquarius rising. And I thought about this masking and how she created Pearl, which you see quite a few, like Beyonce does it. They create these personas like sapphires, right? Of like someone else for them to go on stage. And she created Pearl, which was her wild rock and roll mama persona.
Mhm.
And I thought how interesting that it's Cancer, which is like the mother, and then Aquarius rising. So it was something like very unique to create this personality of this, like, I'm rock and roll, but I'm also like this warm, nurturing persona for my audience that I like get on stage and just like share all of my emotions with. And I was like, oh, I mean, she really did live her chart. And I do think it could have lived out a different way, which I think is important for people to understand. You might have the same placements of some of the placements, but it doesn't mean you're going to have the same results because there's different transits in the sky and everything's on a spectrum. Because I really thought, like, oh my gosh, she could have created this persona really if she had really learned to kind of master. And this is where that North Node is. If she had really kind of pulled back on some of like the desires and the masking with the alcohol and the drugs, she may have lived longer. There are reports on her death that it's not necessarily an overdose, that she tripped and fell and she bled.
Mhm.
And so, yes, the drugs or alcohol may have contributed, but it may have been more of the fact that she like smacked her head.
Mhm.
But it's always said like she overdosed, right? It's interesting that that part is kind of taken out. So, down here, you have both of these squaring the nodes.
Mhm.
And there's the idea that it's really hard to integrate planets that square the nodes. And I thought that seems pretty true for her.
I think it ties into, because it is the person who's on the outside versus the person in the group.
Yeah.
Which direction will I be going into? Will I be going into traditional relationships? That will be boring for me.
Hmm.
Do I stay wild child? And, which direction am I going to go into?
You're right. It's like it's a teeter-totter and the teeter-totter never balances. It
Mhm.
never
Mhm.
balances for more than 2 seconds till you have to like jump off the teeter-totter.
Exactly.
Like I just thought like I was like, wow, she really reincarnated into this life and said, okay, I'm going to take all the hard stuff. Tough, very tough. So many things play down to this. I thought like, okay, your sun in Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Here you have Aquarius rising ruled by Uranus. Okay, so this still continues to keep this like strong tie-in in her chart. And then you're a songwriter. Like it's in the here it is in Gemini, which then is ruled by Mercury, and here it is across from Pluto. Like I just thought, wow, she just kept like it was so concentrated. I feel like down there was so pivotal, probably in her life. Yeah, that teeter-totter, just like you said, just tipped one way or the other. There was
Right.
no middle ground. I wrote a question that if I got to meet her, what I would ask her. I
Mhm.
said I would have to ask her greatest fear because I'd want to drill down to see because it's right here on her IC. I'd want to know if her greatest fear was related to her or someone else from her family line.
Mhm.
And I read that your first, when your nodes are in your first and your seventh house, you can tend to take on a parent or a grandparent's like similarities.
Mhm.
And I wonder how much of this is like a replay of something generational from someone in her family's background.
Mhm.
So if you've ever studied family constellation theory,
Mhm.
that would be the question you'd ask to get down to, is the fear yours or someone else? Because I felt like this felt like a dissolving. I'd wonder if she felt like she evaporated in a crowd, or her personality, or her sense of who she was. I'd love to know what her answer was there. She was so young,
Mhm.
so young. So much talent though.
Oh,
Unbelievable talent. And it's like, it just wasn't enough time. And it was almost, it feels like that fall was just this like freak moment. It was like the strap of a shoe. And she had said in an interview um, at one point that she got to go into a store and she bought herself shoes. And she's talked about how excited she was because she felt like this is kind of like what pretty girls kind of do.
mm.
And I was like, oh my God, and it's the shoe. The shoe took you out, like the strap of the shoe got caught on the table. And I was like, it's just weird how some of these things kind of floated through. You have any
Mm.
other thoughts? And we can pull up her, we'll pull up her death date. Okay, here we have Janis Joplin's natal chart on the inside. The second row is the progressed transits, progressed planets. Most for the both of these ladies, you're going to mostly look at just the sun and the moon for the progressions. And then on the outer is the transits of the day. Now we don't have a death time, so the moon could be 6 degrees ahead or 6 degrees behind. Although she was, I believe, found in the morning, so it'd either be, she's definitely a Scorpio moon in the sky that day. Because these girls are at the 27, the whole 27 club, their moons will have progressed back to their natal moons, but it's going to be their suns. And then you'll look also at Saturn, as Saturn is here approaching their Saturn returns. And Miss Amy, or Miss Janice, has her progressed sun had just progressed to her south node, which to me just felt like, and especially with the north node here in Pisces, which it just felt like lights out and substance. Substance was a contributor to it. And then also, well, the moon at noon. So this would have been the moon, no matter what, even if it was 6 degrees back, it would have been right up here, still touching both Neptune and Venus. And I just thought about Scorpio, which can go very deep, but that if you're having a bad day or a hard time, like she may have reached for these substances as well to help soothe her. Okay, we're gonna hop on the bi-wheel because it's easier to see the transits to the natal chart for the day. You were saying we have the moon here.
It's actually her Scorpio. The Scorpio moon is sextiling her sun.
Yeah, so this here and the Neptune, which
Yeah.
dissolving.
Yeah, and forever young. Forever. This is her forever moment.
Yeah. Well, Capricorns age backwards.
Yeah. But to have Neptune and the moon in Scorpio, this
So forever be this young,
Mhm.
vibrant, individualistic,
Mhm.
original rock and roll
Yeah,
woman. So very
exactly.
legacy.
Mhm.
I also noticed this was squaring here. So here she had, this was squaring. So her 12th house, her Venus, Mercury squaring, Jupiter also in Scorpio. I was like, oh, and also in the 8th house. Didn't love that. Not gonna lie. The Mars here, which is interesting because it's the Mars here, it brings into play here her own Jupiter.
Mhm.
Right. And I just thought like, oh, Virgo hit her head, substances. Jupiter in the fifth can bring excessiveness to like desires and tendencies. It was just like one step too far, right? Also, her moon, oh, Chiron, because it is across from the sun and Uranus here, very erratic. I felt like it was a very unexpected, erratic thing that happened.
I feel like speculating.
Yes.
Feel like with Mercury and Pluto together in the seventh house,
Mhm.
I think there was a conversation, something happened that caused that erratic behavior.
There was a conversation the day before with somebody.
Hmm.
And then her manager, I think, went to check on her in the morning. There's probably a conspiracy that would like this to me would drive what happened here.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. Something happened here.
Mhm.
Not nothing nefarious or anything, but something happened to
That triggers
that
this whole
triggered.
set off.
Yeah,
It sets everything
exactly.
off. Yeah, there it was. I'd have to go back and reread some things, but there was some. I would tell the people, go look, go research and see
Hmm.
and dig through that yourself to see what you think happened. Yes, there
Exactly.
was. There was some conversation. She
Hmm.
was getting closer to her Saturn return.
Yeah.
Right. So this is those moments that's your first checkpoint. In astrology, this is when you have your Saturn return is when we consider you becoming an adult. So this is when you start to make those decisions of where am I going for the next 30 years of my life based on my growing up experiences. So she was getting close to that first checkpoint. And I also feel like the nodal opposition, these are hard. They're so hard. And to do that with a Saturn return at the same time
Right.
is just like a punch. just it's tough.
Yeah, it really is.
Oh, so there was something that was said. So she was friends with Jim Morrison, which we will do his as well. Jim Morrison's wife, widow, um, did an article or was speaking and interviewed, and she said about her, Janis and Morrison, they were addicted to performance and the applause. Out of the spotlight, they turned to drugs to get that same high. And that really made me think of her Mars here, Mars trining this
Well,
north
that
node.
is interesting. Yes, because that is indicative, and you're going to see it in another chart. It's because her Mars is sextiling and trining her nodes, and that
Mm-hmm.
is addicted to adrenaline.
Yes.
It's addicted to that rush.
Yeah. So if you're not getting it on stage, how do you get this? Which makes me think too, ADHD, you're kind of chasing the dopamine, and then it gets depleted, right? So you got to you kind of go for that dopamine hit.
Exactly.
Her couple of charts that are just transits of things that happened since she's died. So you can kind of see how your chart lives forever. Okay, our first date that we pulled is her induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was on January 15th, so 4 days before her birthday. And here we have, dun dun dun. Of course, it's going to be like a solar return, right? Close to a solar return. You
Mhm.
also have Uranus here, which is her chart ruler. So here we are remembering her. Also, like we talked about, this was tough. And here you have Pluto giving it a little bit of power across the way, and then also squaring up here, which the applause, the recognition, right?
Mhm.
She's getting it. Like you said, forever young. Here she is. This was the moon and Neptune were 28 degrees. So this Pluto is right on that Neptune and the moon from her death chart. So
Right.
she is forever remembered. Interesting that Saturn would be trining her moon when she passed so close to her Saturn return. Oh, and the moon in the sky. The
Mhm.
new day. That's nice. This is lovely. This works.
Yeah,
Okay.
feels very emotional. Very emotional.
Yeah. Here we have Janis Joplin on the inside, and then on the outside is her Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award Day.
Oh,
Isn't that lovely? Look at
wow.
that. Right on her ascendant.
Yeah.
You're loved.
Oh,
You're loved and recognized for your contributions, for who you were as a person down deep inside.
oh, and I love the North Node and Aries next to the moon training her own Chiron and North Node.
Oh, that is lovely. Yeah.
That you did it, girl. You lived, you fulfilled that North Node. You did it.
Yeah. You got the applause. You are
Yeah,
recognized
and
for being an
yes,
individual. Hmm.
yeah. And the people, your relationships brought
Yeah.
you up, you
Yeah.
know. Oh,
I
in
believe
the
her.
second house of worth.
Yeah. Yes. And she does, I think believe her family runs, her siblings run her foundation, or like her,
Oh, that
what you
makes
call it,
sense.
like the
Hmm.
royalties that come from it.
Yeah.
Hmm. And then you also have this Chiron in the sky also playing here with her son. Oh my gosh. Seriously?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's giving power to you on the stage, right? This is where she was on the, yeah, it's power on the stage, right? Here she is, her building her legacy. This would
Don't you think it's
also
interesting when it was
trine
in
here.
Scorpio,
Would
Pluto
trine.
was in Scorpio
Hmm.
in her death chart, and now we have two signs, Mars and Pluto,
Yeah.
both rulers of Scorpio, moving over into Sagittarius of ta-da!
Yeah.
I'm forever on the move,
Mhm.
changing things.
She is. She was women in rock and roll. She kind of like led the way.
Yeah, she did. She
So
really did.
she did
Hmm.
really kind of like expand and kind of bust through ceilings,
Hmm.
walls, however you want to describe it. Okay, this is the date on the outer wheel is the date of her Little Girl Blue documentary. How do you like that Saturn opposition?
Wow.
So you have on her midheaven talking about her, bringing
Hmm.
that like legacy forward
And bringing her story out of the 12th house up and elevating it, with that Mercury.
to everyone. Remember the last one
Yes.
was she gets a lot of play here after death, the
Yeah.
ninth and the 10th house,
Hmm.
which really pushes you out into the public more, which is very healing here for her. I mean, the moon would have been sextiling as well, probably introducing her to more people. I'll take this as well, putting her story out there. And it's a story that, I mean, there's not always great things in that about her lifestyle.
Yeah, I like Mars and Mars and
Libra.
Libra for
Hmm.
this story because let's right some wrongs here. Let's, let's tell the truth this time.
Yeah.
Let's paint a more truthful picture of her, not focus so much on the other things.
Right. Which is what like tends to always come up, right?
Of course, of course.
Hmm. Hmm. Good. And I don't mind Pluto here in her house of legacy either.
Mm-mm.
Like you're saying, let's put out the right information.
Exactly.
So that was Janice. Now we're going to move to Amy. And there are many similarities between the two of them.
Hmm.
Many, many similarities.
Like shocking.
Right? I just started writing them down. I started making a list. So at the end, maybe
Yeah.
we'll go through our list because I was like, this is pretty incredible. So Amy grew up Jewish. Her dad, Mitch, was a taxi driver and an amateur singer. Her mom, Janice, that's not one of the things, but I was like, but also her mother was a pharmacist. And I was like, okay. Her parents divorced right around when she was 9 or 10. In her late
Mhm.
teens, she bulimia. She had an eating disorder. 19 was right around the time when substance use and a lot of hospitals and interventions started. She would self-harm, cutting. She lived in London. London press is pretty brutal. So the moment you become famous, they are on you forever. They don't, they're relentless. She was married, right? And we'll talk about him. He is still alive and he is clean and has 2 kids. He cleaned up his act. Her dad had made the comment, it's ultimately your own responsibility. And if the person does not have much interest in getting better, there's not much you can do. But the family did try, but I was like, that's a very interesting thing to state when you look at her chart. And the family, she has an Amy Winehouse Foundation, which is to prevent the effects of drugs and alcohol misuse on young people. So her family helps run that. So let's pull up her chart. Here we have Amy Winehouse's birth chart. We do have a good birth time as well. She was a Virgo sun, Gemini rising, and a Capricorn moon. She has her nodes 1 and 7. So here we have that sun and Mercury. It's in her 5th house of creativity. This to me just said like songwriter, very, very good with like writing. It squares a node. So here we have another moment of like integrating something, like getting your voice out there. Now hers is in North Node and Gemini, South Node, Sagittarius. She has in her 3rd house this very in Leo, very big, charming, seducing. I just wrote big star quality. And I think I told you, I saw her on stage in Chicago just prior to her death. And she's large, she's a tiny woman who's larger than life. It was a small venue. It was very erratic. Like she was throwing these lollipops she was sucking on at the crowd. It was like you had to like duck. She was incredible. Like her voice is incredible. But you could see like hair, right? Like the big, I don't know if they were wigs or if they were like partially her hair, but they were huge. The beehives were huge. Um, Over here, she has her moon. This is 7th house planet she can project onto other people. She really didn't have limits. And even her brother said she had no limits. She would go. This to me feels, first of all, Capricorn moons. I mean, this here is, these two together is dependency, escapism, addiction. You're seeking this empathy, this love. Capricorn moons need hugs. It's very tough moon.
It is hard. They always will feel like they're not enough.
Yeah.
Not enough. They tend to also feel like they were left to be raised by themselves. They have to go out in the world and make their mark alone.
Hmm.
Like the parents were, you know, not around to raise this little person.
Yeah. I wrote down Capricorn moon is a journey to loving yourself. You have to do something to feel good. Like you have to learn lessons through like your emotional body and like attuning into your feelings
Mhm,
because you tend to build this like tower around you.
mhm.
So it's tough moon. And then you put Neptune there. And then you have the South Node where you're already coming in with some of this. So this is in her 6th house of daily life, routines. So she has Uranus here, which is the higher octave of Mercury. And then she had Jupiter here. I mean, she was this tiny woman with this really big, expansive voice, like tiny woman. Like I cannot like stress to you like how small she was on stage. It's like she was small, but she took up a lot of space. So she has an interception here. I wrote, did she had personal power? And did she feel she could tap into her own personal power? And that would be one of my questions to her. Like, do you realize how much you have? Which interceptions usually don't recognize those, or those planets don't really come out until you're around 40. So I don't know if she knew to tap into her own personal power. And then you have Pluto here, which you're going to challenge. This is like a challenge to your own discipline right here. Like, this is a lifetime battle. I feel like
Right.
this would have been a lifetime battle. Even if she continued to live, she would constantly have been battling this like ability to tap into her own personal power. And I really think when you have the sextiles here, not knowing how to or having the resources around you, will you? But then at the same time, I thought, oh gosh, you have Chiron here in your 12th and your Uranus in here. And all I kept thinking was little body, big voice, and the song, You Tried to Make Me Go to Rehab, and I said no.
Oh, that
Right?
came up for me in looking at her chart too. Hmm.
Right? Like, you're not going to tell me what to do.
Right.
It's interesting because this, I wrote down, you wanted her to learn to face her demons and not choose them. And I feel like she kept choosing the demons. I just think it would have been her lifetime struggle. But at the same time, I think this could have played a whole different way. She could have gotten healthier, and then she could have helped and been the voice for people who didn't have a voice, and how to like, here's a journey I took. You can too.
Yeah.
I feel like this could have gone a different way, but she was also
Mhm.
so young. I felt like this feels like, I don't know, just like I just said blind spot, just like there's this blind spot, this wound of like communications, truth, your truth about your own self. Like she was like, no, 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 I'm not going, I'll do it on my own, right?
Mhm.
I just was like, oof, tough. I think that's why her dad said, like, you can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped, basically. There's only so much you can do. And that's painful and tough.
Well, I think the her whole chart paints that picture
Mm-hmm.
with the nodes, which were reversed. So her north node is in her first house and south node is in her seventh house. Janice had the opposite,
Right.
so where Janice needed to find, power in relationship, that was her north node. Amy came into this world needing to be more independent, and she fought so hard for that independence. They tried to make me go to rehab, and I said no. It's almost learning selfish individualism
Yeah.
is what it is. And having that south node in the seventh house where there's Neptune and the moon, I would see how all of her relationships were painting this gorgeous picture for her of what it could be. Um, I bet she came into this world looking to find her voice, probably
Yeah.
there were instances where she felt powerless, which
Mm-hmm.
alluded to with Pluto and Saturn, voiceless and powerless in relationships. And so she's learning how to become more powerful in relationships
Yeah.
and finding that balance between them. Yeah,
Mhm.
enlightened selfishness is what I was thinking. And then having it square her sun, the nodes are squaring her sun. It feels like the lost sheep syndrome. And so she really struggled to play on your point about she kept choosing the demons. That would be
Yeah.
the easier one to choose rather than, keep forging, keep doing it, you keep going.
Mm-hmm.
She also has that Mars sextile in
Yeah.
trine, and we talked about that being the addiction to adrenaline
Yeah.
there, and I see her
That's what
Venus is stationing. So I don't know which way that Venus is stationing, but this Venus is really strong.
I
So
can
she,
swear around this in my notes and I wrote strong.
yeah, really strong. That's what S is for.
Mm-hmm. Strong. It's
No,
yeah,
it's
it is.
not
Mhm.
stationing,
Yeah.
either retrograde or coming out of retrograde. So
Mhm.
it is literally at its most powerful point here.
Yeah.
And again, sextiling, trining those nodes where, she really could find that balance with her charm. Venus and Mars together, it's a little push play between letting it all rip and being really nice about it at the
Nice.
same time,
Yeah.
But I
It's
would
such
say
a
with that
funny grouping.
stationing Venus, those Venus qualities were probably more prevalent than.
Yeah. The needs got pushed down, but the wants
Mhm.
really. I looked to, so speaking of relationships, so it was the husband,
Mhm.
like guy, which she was like addicted to him, but
Mhm.
he's the one that also got her into the heroin.
Mhm.
So one of the things I noticed with her chart, so she had this south node, right? I believe even when he was in prison, she was like still like gaga over him. So you'll remember from evolutionary astrology, the fourth through the eighth house is your arc of intimacy.
Mhm.
And here she is with all of her planets. So every one of these planets in your arc of intimacy is like a soul tie, a soul connection to
Mhm.
somebody. And they each kind of represent a different thing either you're learning or they're learning from you. And
Mhm.
she just to me had a soul contract with so many people to deal with. And honestly, I'd be like, don't date anyone. Like to me, I'd be like, we need to pull back for a minute. Like you have to stop trying to see yourself and everyone else.
That would be so hard for her to do.
It
So hard.
is. And I also thought like, gosh, just with this Gemini rising,
Mhm.
like you got to learn to understand that you yourself are whole.
Right.
You're
And
not
not
you're not two
seek your
different
twin,
pieces. Yeah, you're not two
your
pieces.
soulmate.
Yeah, you are your own soulmate.
Mhm.
And sometimes that's hard to
And
realize.
and that takes time. That takes time. You know,
Hmm.
when I looked at their two charts together, what popped in my head, of course, is
Yeah.
I called them both the suffering saints
Oh, yeah, that's a good
because
term.
they went through so much. They went
Mhm.
through so much, found themselves, lost themselves, found themselves, lost themselves, along the way. And sometimes it just gives out. So you gotta go.
Yeah. All right. So on the inside, we have Amy's natal chart, her progressions, and then on the outer wheel is her death date. Now, remember, this could pop back into the moon, can pop back 6 degrees because we don't have an exact time to Aries or forward more
Mhm.
into Aquarius. Just pulled this chart just to see that her progressed moon has was back. So you have Pluto not only having just passed her natal, but also they probably passed over her progressed as well.
Mhm.
Um, this is very challenging, kind of emotional death rebirth moments. This could have been a moment where she could have turned it all around, I felt like. And here, when Saturn goes over your sun, this is her progressed sun. Progressed sun was in Libra, which we know how important those relationships were, especially with the seventh house and like
Mhm.
how the whole thing with Blake went down. This feels to me like Saturn to me is like it's just like lights out on a relationship. And it
Right.
could be her relationship with her body here. We've got Neptune that blurs and dissolves, is opposing, and it's drugs. It's Pisces. Obviously, she was having her nodal opposition,
Mhm.
but we'll talk about Mars in the first. Let's grab her biwheel. But I think it's important that you see the progressed sun and moon and where they are. Here we have Amy. This is her death chart, but this is the biwheel. So you can see more of the transits closer to her natal chart. Since we already know her moon was right here and her progressed sun was here. Here, I thought, to me, this feels like I took my own life. It was my actions that did this. Her brother did make the comment that he thought her bulimia was a bigger reason for like having weakened her body as to why she passed, which very much so. That's a disorder that will affect you the rest of your life. I mean, it's a perfect sextile of this. There's magic in sextiles, right? Like you can tap into them or you don't have to. There was a moment you probably didn't have to. I still felt like this is I'll do it my way, and my way didn't work. My way
Mhm.
wasn't working. And I feel like this was like a moment of like, your way isn't working. She refused a lot of treatments. And as we know, she was getting closer to that Saturn return. You also had Mars here squaring this teeter totter for her of, like you said, personal empowerment. This is a loss of someone who was probably had a huge career ahead of her.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
I mean, I think she would have, I mean, Adele does huge. I think Amy would have.
You know, it does feel like the pain just got too great with Chiron up there, squaring off with her Jupiter, a literal Chiron in Pisces squaring Jupiter in a fire sign. Like flame's gone. Like the oomph is gone. It's gone.
It's dissolved. I feel like that's that Neptune. Also, you
Yeah.
have two very religious type signs, and then also having this in your 12th house.
That's where my suffering saint came from. And
Sometimes,
having that opposition, so let's look at the nodal opposition, where
Mhm.
before she was coming in to be, you know, undeniably selfishly independent and not, put the relationships as the focal point. That's where her addiction started. I truly believe that. It's where it
like
started, and then it just got back bigger with relationships, and then the nodes are switched. So people did try to help her. People, with the north node in the seventh house versus no, I'm just going to be, I feel like I'm an outcast. I'm talking more than I'm listening now. I'm not Mars there. I'm arguing for what I believe is true, which is clouded thinking.
was wondering if she had, because so many of her planets were also below the horizon line. It's a very big self-development chart. I
Mhm.
wonder if like being on stage made her very anxious,
Oh gosh, yes.
right?
When
Like,
I saw her birth chart, my first thought was, ay, 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 we need to help her. It's so frenetic and there's so much happening in her chart that, she had control over nothing, and her thoughts drove everything. It drove everything, and she believed them.
I think it's when she won her first like big award at one of those music shows. Her brother had made a comment like it was funny because she was going to those shows or whatever, and we saw each other in the train. He goes, and then she won these awards. He goes, she could never live normal. We would never pass each other in a train again. He said she had no control. For someone who needed to learn how to like have personal power and control, maybe this industry wasn't the greatest for her.
Right,
Maybe this
right.
path wasn't the path. We'll pull a chart to see as her legacy. The date I pulled for her was the date February 15th, 2016, where there was a documentary called Amy on Netflix, and it won Grammy for like best music in a film. Look at the North Node. Oh my gosh, it gives me like chills.
Yes.
As I cry through charts now. Oh my God, what is my problem? I don't know what's going on today. I'm like a leaky little something today. That's beautiful, where she really had to work with the nodes, and now she's getting this like, and it was a documentary, so it was like her face and her music.
Oh, I love that. I want to say it again. We said it for good job.
It still squares her. I like that it was just named Amy, like you were saying with the North Node and with like having your own personal power.
Exactly.
We do have a square up here, this ninth house. So this is the ninth house here. Interesting. Here's her personal power. By the way, the award went to the directors or somebody. It didn't go to her. Here she has the idea of personal power that she struggles with. And here's your ninth house. We have a square here that then trines ninth house being published. This documentary was put out into the world. It's receiving awards. I guess she's not there to collect it, right?
Yeah.
But she also probably didn't really have a say in it as much. It was pulled clips of her. I don't know how I feel about that.
I think though, trining Chiron, perhaps, in the House of Hidden, maybe there is a little bit of healing words in there.
Interviews I read with her brother, he's very cautious on what he talks, like says about her. Like
Mhm.
everyone, her family seems very, very, or he seemed very cautious on like how he spoke about her. He didn't want to talk about their personal, like his personal relationship with her, or even like their
Mhm.
childhood a bit, which I thought was very, it was interesting because even the interviewer noted that.
Something very special about sibling
Mhm.
relationships, and they're basically your first soulmate.
I mean, it was Cancer second and third. It's a lot of your communication too when you have like a house, your second and your third house. The fact that she was a singer and a songwriter is definitely in her chart.
Mhm.
It's probably predetermined that your little body's going to get this big voice. How are you going to use
Right.
it? That this is your house of legacy. This is 11th house. So this is the award. I did go to the directors. It is her creativity though. I do like that her creativity is getting out there. I don't know. I don't think we've heard the end.
No, it's interesting that Chiron's squaring her nodes. So
There's
in
more of the
Pisces,
story.
yeah, I think we're not done with Amy yet.
No, something else is coming out.
Mhm.
I'm not sure
Mhm.
when. Yeah, I don't feel like with her, like Janice, I feel like the book is closed. Anything forward will just be like an award or a reference or
Mhm.
part of a documentary. But I don't think we're quite done with
Mhm.
this here. Maybe there's some secret recordings we don't know about or something. I don't know. There's something. I don't know. It doesn't,
Right.
right? It doesn't, it feels unsettled.
Right. That's what
Something
I
feels,
feel. We're not done here
especially,
yet.
especially when, yeah, I don't, that's my psychic prediction is we're not done yet. I don't feel like we're done. These are suffering saints. That's a wonderful way to put it. These wonderful women with so much talent who really
Mhm.
were pioneers. I mean, Amy did it her own way and really kind of
Yeah,
broke a
that's what I
mold.
think in both of them did.
Yeah.
That even moving forward, I don't know that how successful, especially Janice would be because she was so bluesy that
Hmm.
I think she probably would have gone underground until probably the 90s when the bluesy sound made a resurgence.
You know what she makes
So,
me think of? Do you remember how Jack White and Loretta Lynn did an
mhm,
album? I feel like John Mayer and Janis Joplin
yeah,
would have done something like that.
exactly, exactly. I see her more either writing or painting or something. Crazy lady in
I think she
her.
would have written books. I guess her
Yeah, that's
writing
exactly what
was,
I think. Hmm.
mhm, yeah,
And the same with Amy, because we were starting to head into that really poppy, all the poppies started. That's what I'm
yeah.
going to call the new little artists,
Yep, they're
are
little pop
poppies.
stars. Yeah. The
And
manufactured pop
she
star.
she was not.
Hmm.
So I'd be really curious to know where she would have landed
I
for
think
all
if she
this.
would have, I could see her like putting out album like randomly,
Hmm.
and it would have been like huge. Probably would have done collaborations here and there.
I don't know if she could though. I seriously do not see her, especially with her chart. I think she will always, I think the longer she would have been Amy,
Mhm.
then the more independent I would
Okay,
hope,
I would hope
as
so.
her Scorpio comes out of
Right.
intercession.
I don't think I would want to put her, if I were her manager, I wouldn't want her to like create an album and us go tour. I think that's too much.
Mhm.
She's too, I don't want to call her delicate, but it's too
She
easy.
is,
It would be too easy. Like I wouldn't want her to feel like I had to babysit her,
right?
but then I feel like you would have to babysit her. And I think that would be very disempowering to her.
Yeah, it would go against everything she was supposed to do this life.
Yeah. Maybe it would have been great because now we're in the time of like Spotify's and Apple, and she could have out one song and not have had to tour and
Exactly.
promote the same way. Maybe this would have
Mhm.
been a better with the North Node and ooh, I wonder when the North Node, when Uranus goes over her North Node. I think we should, it'll be in like a year. No, it'll be longer than a year. But yeah, when it hits around then, maybe that's when we'll hear something else about her.
Okay, write that down.
Pull the date. It'll be like in 2020.
Pull it. Write
Yeah.
that down.
But yeah,
Do
that
a
would be,
quick update.
yeah. Whereas I would say it's got to be, I would say Uranus. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. What are some of the similarities?
I want to pop off with
Mm-hmm.
Janice had an unaspected Jupiter and the moon in her
Right.
birth chart.
Mm-hmm.
Same configuration was happening across the chart for Amy when she passed away.
Oh, really? Oh, you're right.
Yes. Yeah.
They did. Amy had the moon and Jupiter in Taurus.
Hmm. On there, death charts, we'll call them.
Mm-hmm.
They both had transiting Chiron squaring Jupiter.
Which is excess and more. They both had a luminary in the fifth. One had the sun and one had the moon.
Well, I was looking at that too in the fifth house, but we have a Capricorn sun, which
Right.
is a Capricorn moon for Amy.
Yeah, they would have been
Exactly. They
soulmates.
were. And it was almost like, so me, 40
Mhm.
years age difference, 40 years, right?
Yeah,
They were like looking in a mirror
to each other.
because
Yeah,
of all the little opposites with nodes, with the moon and the sun, with
I you have to wonder like the reincarnation wise, like
yeah,
what passes through. Yeah, I feel like Janice and her probably would have been a really cool sit down conversation together.
there's our duet.
Mm-hmm.
They had those voices.
Yeah. And then you do it from like different generations and different. Also, I just think on like leaning on each other for support of like getting through addictions and body image issues.
Exactly.
Oh, they had the same intercepted signs. So both charts had two houses that were Cancer. So for Amy, it was second and third, which is you're making money from your communication. Janice was fifth and sixth, which is work is my first love. So you're two people that are very like work similar. For Janice, it was Capricorn on the 11th and 12th, which is forces outside of my control influence my life. And then for Amy was her eighth and ninth. I wrote down about the writing. They both have
Also,
this like fatalistic to them, that Saturn in Scorpio, that interception, it like may face with your own fatalism. They both had this in their charts, which is a little scary.
Amy had the moon Neptune conjunction in her birth chart.
Hmm.
And
Was it in her death? It was in her death chart.
yes,
This moon, Jupiter, moon, Neptune, which Jupiter and Neptune, Jupiter is excesses, Neptune tends to be substances. I
mhm,
remember from studies that Uranus is it's not like long-term addiction things like a heroin. It's more of like
mhm.
short-term hit type things. Yeah. So I feel like they both had that Jupiter, something, this habit you had over a long time has now, especially with the moon.
I love the both of them. I
I
love both of
know.
these women. I
And
always have.
I think if you do, you could have some similar aspects in chart signature and chart things. It does make you think about Neptune a little bit too, about how it plays in your chart of dissolving boundaries. Like,
Right.
where is it in your chart? Where are your boundaries? Where do you lack maybe some boundaries?
Mhm,
And then if it's touching a planet, what's it dissolving? What is it blurring of yours? So I
mhm.
think this is a big, I think Neptune, especially because we're finishing off Neptune and Pisces, where I feel like we went through years of blur. I don't know what do you want to call it the last.
Filters. We went through years of filters.
That's what Neptune and Pisces is.
Right.
It's this
It's just a
fantasy
filter.
filters. Fantasy
Hmm.
filters. And now you're getting replaced with Neptune and Aries, which you're just literally you've been replaced as a body. Now you have all these photographs, these AI photographs, and the first house is your body.
Hmm.
You first we let you filter your face. We've taken all that info, and now we're just gonna go ahead and make these beauty magazines of completely fake AI people.
Exactly.
In case you're wondering what's
Exactly.
coming up, if you haven't figured it out. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, like, subscribe, follow along. We are going to do other people in the 27 club.
Hmm.
So Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison. We have a list. There is a newer, younger Korean pop star that just joined.
Let us know where your Neptune is.